know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA. You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Fabulous Pelton Cast. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carcino.
And Tristan gets a home game for the first time all year as we are talking about the year in music that was 2025, our annual tradition. This is got to be our 10th annual. Did we do one in 2013 as well? I assume we did, right? That was the Sierra Body Parter long before we knew that Sierra and Russell Wilson, two topics of 2013, were going to merge together.
That's really funny. That was our first ever one. Was 2013. Oh,
I know Body Party was the first one. Yeah.
No, that definitely was the home game. It's so funny because I do feel like this podcast is maybe like on a conceptual level, but there's so many of, the big songs of the year or whatever, where I'm just like, I have no idea. And I distinctly remember, it always reminds me of having a medieval literature class. And we had a professor, this was at UW, who had taught at Vanderbilt beforehand, unrelated to the story. But he was like, I would always meet up with people and they would find out that I'm an English professor and they would think like I cared about grammar deeply or something. and he would be like, they'd always be like, oh, that's a past participle or something when they're talking. And he was like, that's just not it, And working in music isn't like I'm aware of every big indie song or of like, I'm aware of like larger trends.
But I think you're speaking to a different thing, because what people think an English professor is not what an English professor actually is. There are people in music, lots of people in music that do get to care about the biggest songs. They're just not you.
But I'm saying, I think even those people, the amount that they are paying attention to explicitly the biggest songs or the biggest songs in a wide breadth of music is not exactly it. So that's why I like to do the top 10 list in the way that I've kind of settled in on doing it, which is more like underground type songs or emerging artists.
We did not do top 10s in 2013. We were just going through the Pitchfork top 10 back then. So it's our 10th coming up with top 10 lists, I'm pretty sure.
Wow, our 10th time. I feel like I was doing top 10 songs in the past, and the last couple of years I've done more like emerging type artists. And right. I will say there's some all rippers in those artists when you look back on them, of artists who like ended up being very, very large. In fact, I have a repeat of one this year.
Would you like to guess the artists in the 2013 Pitchfork top 10? Obviously, Sarah is out there as the blank space.
Autry Nouveau.
Yep.
Was one of them. I remember that was in the top 10. Solange.
Number 10 with Play by Play. Not Solange that year.
Really? That was a later year that she was in it?
I'd have to look it up.
I know we definitely talked about her as part of a Pitchfork top 10. I'm trying just to remember specifically. Drake was probably in it.
Drake was number 1 with Hold On, We're Going Home. 2013 was a long time ago.
God, in the top 10 specifically, I don't really remember.
I mean, you could just throw out some major
Arcade
artists.
Fire?
No. Oh, yes. No, yes. Reflector was number 4. Sorry.
Reflector was number 4?
Yeah.
Wow. That was 2013? No.
Yes.
That's not right.
It's what it says here. Unless I typed it wrong in 2013, which seems unlikely. Maybe it came out late 2012.
2013. Well, I guess that song as a single came out before the record came out, which came out in 2014, is why I'm thinking of it as a 2014 song.
Okay.
God, other things that would have happened that you're saying name big artists. Was there a Bon Iver release then?
No Bon Iver.
Who else?
Well, 2013 was the summer of Pharrell. So Get Lucky, Daft Punk featuring Pharrell is in there.
Wow, that was...
we have Disclosure featuring Sam Smith with Latch, Haim with The Wire.
Oh, I was going to guess Haim. I don't know why I didn't get that. That was in the top 10. I don't even remember talking. I was just trying to remember talking about the songs.
Vampire Weekend with Hannah Hunt.
Hannah Hunt. I mean,
Kanye with New Slaves.
I think I had Hannah Hunt as one of my top songs of the decade.
I'd have to go review that. Anyways, we're not going to just guess old Pitchfork top 10s on this podcast. We have some general music, big picture trends and ideas that we wanted to talk about, and particularly to get your perspective on, because again, you're in the industry.
And this is what we talk about in the biz. Uh, as always, I want your perspective on it also as a person who's not in the industry.
Of
but
course. So your first topic was that there is no hip hop in the Billboard Hot 100 Top 40 for the first time since 1990, in a year where Kendrick headlined the Super Bowl halftime show. And I would note, we talked about this on this podcast, played a series of very successful stadium level concerts, including a sold out one in Seattle that we both attended, obviously co-headlining with SZA.
Yeah, that was a fascinating one. And I think two things were happening here at the same time, which was, it was a pretty big news story. This is back in like October, where there wasn't a hip hop song in that top 40. And people were using it to basically mark like, this is the era where hip hop is dead or something like that. And I think
the thing about that Nas song is you're always going to be right to say something is dead. Just, it might take a while. It's kind of like All Takes Tristan. Eventually you're going to be right.
No, that's like the hater, right?
Yeah.
The hater is always right or just has to wait. But the takes that people had when this was happening in, I think it was October, late October, that this happened, that there wasn't a song in there. And it was a Pharrell or a Kendrick Lamar song, that not Pharrell song. It was a Kendrick Lamar song that had fallen out. It was Luther that had fallen out of the top 40 that made it so that there were no hip hop songs. And I think the thing that's fascinating about it is basically the like classic rockification of hip hop. And when we were kids, right, classic rock was music that came out in starting probably around like 1967 through about 1980. It was about 15 years old, right, at that point, to a little bit older. The stuff that is sort of like classic hip hop, right?
I mean, Boston was classic rock at that point. I mean, it's probably even into the 80s. Some of it was less than 15 years old.
The hip hop now that we even consider sort of to be like classic hip hop, a lot of it is older than that music was when we were kids. Because I do feel like the sort of inception point of modern hip hop is probably the Chronic, somewhere right around there. Like 1992 was the year where that's now considered kind of like the like classic hip hop era. And then what had happened, because this was the first time since the year 1990, obviously, and we could kind of look at that time period. I think the thing that is so defining about the 2000s in particular, and even the 90s, was just how massive some of these songs are. Rap songs, right? Like basically some of the biggest songs that existed 1990 through 20 whatever year you want to call it were rap songs, right? That was pop music ultimately. And the thing that has happened in now, this is sort of like, this is not the first moment. We didn't just arrive here. It took a path to get here for hip hop. And I think the thing that happened was hip hop has had a hard time, as if this is like a team or somebody with a goal. Like people are still making money in hip hop, but building stars has been a difficult thing to do. And I was asking Luca yesterday, I was like, can you think of a major hip hop star who has put out their first songs within the last 10 years? And I think he had a couple that were kind of like, they're like maybe, you know what I mean? Like Playboi Carti is a very large artist. Playboi Carti's songs and had a huge release this year. He is nowhere near as big as like Big Pimpin' or something like that. You know what I mean? It's getting hotter. The scale is so radically different when talking about what is a big hip hop song now versus then, or even Not Like Us. You know what I mean? Like even just a year ago. But Kendrick is somebody who it took time for him to get to his peak. And we talked about this when he was doing the halftime show and also on last year's Year in Music podcast, because that was basically like Kendrick had the best year ever. But the thing that you could kind of see for artists who are playing like stadiums and arenas and rock music is a lot of them were popular in 1990 or earlier. Like they were bands that put out their first albums in the 90s. And rock music has had this issue also, which is like finding new stars. And it really like the
rock has been dead for longer than hip hop.
Are Foo Fighters, Green Day, people like that who are really like aged bands at this point. And I think the thing that happened with hip hop was it's not that the genre of music is I think people treated hip hop as if it's like hip hop came in, rock music is dead and gone because hip hop exists. Popularity is cyclical. And I think that's the thing that we've learned from this, which is rock music was never dead. Hip hop is not dead right now, right? The stars that happen in these particular genres are going to transform over time, but there's going to be time periods where each of the genres is going to be more up or more down based upon whatever the societal trends are. Does that make sense?
I mean, I have a particular basketball related aversion to talking about things as being cyclical when the evidence does not suggest they're cyclical. I mean, I think what I would say is they're evolving. I mean, I think
to say that it's evolving, though, to me implies that it won't happen again.
I don't know whether it'll happen again or not, but there's not an example of something trending as far out of popularity as you're saying, and then trending backwards. I mean, I guess the closest would be like rock during the disco era, and then I think the disco is dead.
Country music is a pretty big one.
Sure. Country music is also a pretty broad, I mean, not that rock and hip hop aren't.
I mean, country music has become significantly, we've talked about this on this podcast, country music has become significantly more popular. Country stars are bigger pop stars now and bigger radio stars than they have been basically anywhere since that, like not 1990, but since the year 2000, say.
Since the Billy Ray Cyrus era. And
I mean, Garth Brooks is probably who I would say is like that time period. And
yes, of course.
But those types of artists, like, they became more popular again. Country music wasn't dead at any point. It's just the stars kind of happen in these clumps. And I think it's something, to me, that it happened in rock music, right? Like that early 2000s group, the artists that are still extraordinarily popular, the Strokes, right? The White Stripes. Those are now ultimately classic rock for a lot of kids.
Yep.
And it happened, I think 20 years
I think it's easier for that level of success to be cyclical, but like the Beatles level of success for rock groups, I don't know that that's coming back.
I don't know. I mean, that's an argument. Like, I don't know if anybody has the Beatles levels of success of anybody, like Taylor Swift.
I can do one person. Yes.
But if that's the argument is that we're talking about, here's what I'll say. There could be a rock band as big as Taylor Swift. I don't think it is impossible.
I think it'd be pretty hard.
One of the things
I thought, there was a discussion about this between Chuck Klosterman and Bill Simmons on his most recent appearance on there. And some of it was, not entirely probably, contemporary fact-based, but the one thing I thought that they started to go to, but didn't really explore, is the fact that once upon a time, the biggest stars were typically bands as opposed to individual performers. And now the biggest stars are typically individual performers. So obviously Taylor Swift, there's a guitarist, there's a bassist, there's a drummer, there's all the components of the band, but they do not exist as a band. They are they're backing up Taylor Swift. And I do think that is a difference that I don't think that's changing.
Let me give you a little bit of a counterpoint to this, though, because to me, the artist that has been the most consistently successful and the largest, who's coming ultimately from a rock space, is Tame Impala. And Tame Impala is almost the exact opposite of what you're talking about, which is it's basically one dude, right? It's Kevin Parker's
That's not the opposite of what I'm talking about.
But
That's the same thing as what I'm talking about.
Marketed as a band, though, and branded as a band.
I think that's more of
intentionally branded as a band.
I would agree it's intentionally branded as a band. I don't think it's because of the fact that it's like, well, now we're going to do an interview in Rolling Stone where we talk to the drummer from Tame Impala, because that's not a thing that, for all intents and purposes, exists. That's to me what a band is. That's just like, what you're talking about is marketing, not about the actual.
That's what we're talking about, though. Like, ultimately, like talking to the drummer.
I mean, I think that's also marketing. I think that's also part of the point that they didn't come to, is that, yes, like Paul McCartney in the 70s could have played all the parts for a song and frequently did. But nowadays, with the technology, like, you can sit in your bedroom and make the entire album and don't need the band for that. It's only the live experience where you really need the band. Not the way
it actually happens, though. Like, for pop stars, yes. Rock bands are still recording as bands together. And I am saying to you that
they're not at the center of the culture.
I think they can be, I guess is what I'm saying. The the Strokes were the center of some culture and are still an extraordinarily popular band. And this happened a whole generation after that rock period, basically, like the classic rock period that we're talking
But I think
about.
it was a resurgence of guitar-based rock
That is what I'm saying.
rock.
This is cyclical.
But what I'm saying to you is that yes, it was bigger in the early 2000s, and yes, to people like us, it was a really big deal. It was still not at the center of culture in the same way.
I think it was a
I mean,
bigger deal.
Like, were any of those bands bigger than Justin Timberlake in that era?
No, not necessarily. But also the thing that you're not remembering is that if you were to look back, like the Beatles is not a good example because you're talking about a singular rock band. But
I mean, they did coexist at the same time as the Rolling Stones.
There were pop artists in the 70s who have been kind of lost to the sands of time in a way.
I think the being lost to the sands of time is sort of the point.
No, the point is that we don't know which of these pop artists, like there are still pop artists who, Taylor Swift is going to be huge forever, but like we don't know which of these pop artists are going to be huge forever. And that the Strokes and the White Stripes, Jack White is still a relevant figure in music.
Still headlining Thanksgiving Day. Kind of wild.
And that is something that typically that type of music lasts a little bit longer.
That's potentially fair.
And so whether like, I mean, Justin Timberlake, yes, is more famous right now, but I mean, I think pop is like the only everlasting genre. And the other piece of this is that pop has been was influenced by hip hop for a generation.
Right.
And that's the thing that has changed over time is pop is less influenced by hip hop. But that also is kind of cyclical. I mean, there was a whole time period where it's like pop was influenced almost exclusively.
That part I will agree is cyclical.
Pop can be influenced by all sorts of different things, though. Pop can be influenced by country or rock music or hip hop or electronic music. There was a long time period where it felt like electronic music is the only music that matters, right? I mean, maybe even that time period you were talking about, where it's like all of the biggest bands are going to be electronic artists. And you feel like there's this cascade of a trend, and then overnight it can change.
Do you have something more on that?
Well, so I do think it is a little bit interesting how Kendrick Lamar is happening in this year when hip hop ultimately is probably having its worst year overall. But it's almost like hanging on to those artists because there aren't new artists. I asked Luke also, he's like Baby Keem. Do you know anything about Baby Keem?
Not really.
Yeah,
I couldn't name a Baby Keem song.
And that's why I'm like also just affiliated with Kendrick Lamar, but like I'm talking about massive artists, you know, like literally what you're talking about. And that's what Nelly was and Ludacris was and 50 Cent was.
What do you think the other element of it is it may just be a bifurcation where like I look at and you know, this is also a product of getting older, but I listen to a lot of contemporary music. Certainly it's just probably more pop focused at this point. And I look at the biggest, you know, some of the biggest artists of this year and I'm like, I don't know this person at all or this group.
Name one. They're all K-pop artists.
I mean, Smurs is number 2 on the Pitchfork Top 100.
Well, that's not like center of culture.
Fair.
Popularity. Atre Nouveau was not the center of culture in 2013.
That is also true. She went through a list of like the most played songs of 2025, and like the first one was, you know, someone who blew up on TikTok last year, but I didn't know anything about them. I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head who this was, but I do think that in that technological piece may be a part of it because people are not
Gaga. Is that the name? And Bruno Mars.
What list are you looking at?
I just Googled the most played songs of 2025.
Okay, well, yes, I'm not saying that I've not heard of anyone. I'm saying that there is greater bifurcation, which maybe relates to a topic that we're going to talk about later, I suppose. Because like you know, until probably the 2000s when music became accessible on the internet, maybe the very late 1990s, like you were really discovering music at record stores or by the radio, right? I mean, I guess there's some sort of word of mouth, but like there's very limited in Rolling Stone and other, you know, music-based magazines. There were limited avenues to find for things to go viral. Now TikTok provides this wholly different thing that, you know, is a subset where songs can become huge and not necessarily impact the world outside of that. Does that make sense to you?
Is it Alex Warren who you're thinking of?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Or Somber? I mean, I'm like,
Might be Somber. Somber sounds right.
that's my feeling about Somber. And most of the people in this list are pretty freaking popular. I mean, some of them have had TikTok hits, but they're still like pretty huge artists of the top tracks global 2025. It is Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars are number one though, and Billie Eilish, Rose and Bruno Mars, Bad Bunny, Somber.
Actually, upon further review, it was Gigi Perez.
Oh, Sailor Song.
Yes, which just like did not penetrate my world.
But Gigi Perez is not like what we're like center of culture. You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying is that the center of culture, it both is and isn't is dominant as it used to be.
I do not buy that. If you go back and look at like 2002, there's going to be a song that was the most bought song or whatever by an artist where you're like, really? I think it's a thing. It's a thing that happens over time where there's songs that kind of bubble up and are huge. Like the chances that this is the biggest Gigi Perez song ever. I mean, like Messy by Lola Young. You know, like the chances of Lola Young ever having a song that big again are probably pretty slim. It doesn't mean that it's not a moment, but it's kind of like that's a more eternal thing than anything else, is having one song that's really successful and not having others.
That's not my dispute that there's one song that's really successful, because it's that
because you knew all about Four Non Blondes personally before the song happened or after the song happened.
No, that's not my point. Is that Four Non Blondes, just by being alive, I would hear that song. And songs can be really big, and I can be alive and not hear the song now.
I think that is probably fair that that's the case. I mean, you're not engaging with the most popular discovery tool for music.
Yeah, but what percentage of the US do you think is even on TikTok?
I think if you combine TikTok and Reels, it is probably a fairly high percentage.
Probably.
But also, like, what percentage of the population listen to like Cube 93? I don't know. It's probably not as high as you think, I guess is what I'd say.
No, but I think there's more crossover, is what I'm saying.
My number one argument for all things is that everything is exactly the same. And anybody who tries to view things as different means that they're old. Every time, it's like the thing that I get the most annoyed with, like that Chuck Closeman conversation where I'm like, you're just old. Like, that's it. It's fine. Things aren't worse. Movies weren't better in the 70s. They're the same. Everything is the same.
Well, they're not the same.
I mean, the actual movies themselves might be different, but you nostalgize those things because they were happening.
Real trends that you're dismissing. For example, the consolidation of the movie industry to where there's way fewer movies in a given year now than there once were.
Also not true. Maybe movies that have widespread theatrical releases, but like the amount of people who are subscribed to Netflix and the amount of films that come out on Netflix constantly, like it is just.
Well, theatrical release is what makes it a movie, is a fun fact about it.
That's not true. that's the whole mechanism. It has to have a theatrical release to be a movie.
I mean, otherwise, it's a TV movie. There's a term for it. We literally have a term for movies that don't go on that came out exclusively not on theaters.
Okay. Well, we're not here to debate that. All right. Point number 2.
Okay.
There's some of these I don't know if we need to get to.
Well, we can go quicker on others. Point number 2 is, I keep reading that you want me to read these. The Oasis reunion.
Was this something that you were interested in at all?
Not really.
Kind of me either. And it is funny because this was the most important tour in this world in 2025, and they were the band.
Guess 2025, yeah. Taylor Swift ended in December 2024.
Well, also you want to talk about center of culture, like sure on Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift faded a lot in 2025. Taylor Swift had a bad year in 2025 overall. She did, and I bet you that the first person to tell you that deep down would be Taylor Swift too. Is like she's aware of what her place is in society, and she is not at number 1 anymore, or at least maybe not as confidently at number 1. But the Oasis reunion, it is kind of funny because I always am like with artists sometimes it's like just one song. That's what matters. And like Oasis was a great band who put out 3 great records. But ultimately, it was such a short period of time that Oasis was a relevant band. And it really is a testament to just how good those songs were and just how huge they were. Speaking of rock bands, I mean, granted, that was a time that rock bands were very big, right? In the mid 90s. But like that time period. So to have this reunion, and I was thinking of this, and I was like, when we were kids, we had like the Eagles Hell Freezes Over tour, right?
Yes.
Or like the Rolling
Yes.
Stones would go on tour, things like
Well,
that.
but the Eagles tour was more notable because the Rolling Stones was like an ongoing thing. It still is today somehow. But yes, the Eagles, it was like, wow, this is a truly shocking thing that is happening.
And I think for our generation, this Oasis reunion this was our version of ultimately what is a classic rock band getting back together for the large worldwide cash grab tour. And so I thought it was kind of interesting viewing it through that prism of the types of tours you remember seeing growing up.
So I think the thing about the Oasis reunion, and this is probably true of Hell Freezes Over, undoubtedly true of Hell Freezes Over as well, is like it. Yes, it was about the songs, but it was also about just kind of the headlines that these groups made, particularly with their dissolution. And there's a
Both
line.
Oasis and the Eagles.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's a line that Chuck Osterman has in one of his stories that's like, it's like rockist people from the 70s era lamenting that, oh, in hip hop, it seems to be more about the culture around the songs than the songs themselves. And he's like, but maybe that's because the culture around them is more interesting and always has been. And I think these are examples of that.
Oh, it's just literally that statement is when they make that, it's just racism, is what they mean to say. I'm racist and I see white culture is like about the songs and black culture is about culture, when ultimately it's all the same shit.
It could be ageist as well, but yes.
Sure, yes. But that is like it's
because I don't know that they were necessarily saying it about Motown in the same way. I think there's a generational aspect to it.
I think it is about it. It's almost like when I think about football, where people are like, I just get so mad when the media talks about all this other stuff that isn't football. They only talk about the stories about it. And it's like, literally, you wouldn't have a job if that was the case. Like, if it's just like the idea of playing football or whatever, playing a sport is a thing without the media to cover it and magnify these stories and these things, it's nothing. It's not a thing. You know what I mean? You're not curing cancer. You're not doing a good for society here. That's it. It is entertainment is the ultimate purpose of it. And good songs are what matters. And it's the same thing as sports. And this is the thing that I've thought about so much in the year 2025 is what makes a band popular. And it's the only thing that I've thought about. And do you want to know what I have come to?
What's that?
Having good songs.
Okay.
It is such an incredible revelation that I have gotten to. And it actually goes more to point 4 that we're going to talk about, which is like, you can care so much about all of the other things, right? You talk about TikTok hits, stuff like that. If the songs aren't like, how many people are posting on TikTok songs per day? Millions. It's not like every song on TikTok becomes a viral hit. And it is ultimately about the song itself. Songs are what matter, and really big songs get the stories told about them. So it's kind of like, that is how these two things happen in unison. A great story is not worth a bad song.
I do think there are areas where the story itself can drive the song or the interest in the music, but I
not
agree
sure
with
if
you.
I buy that, especially in the algorithm era. And like we are more so in the era of the masses are deciding what songs are popular based upon like people get mad at algorithms, right? And I'm like, sure, I understand that. The algorithm is people.
Yes. Although it's also so it's certainly great. Although one thing we can't tell is to what degree does like Spotify have their finger on the scale, but ultimately Spotify's goal is to make people listen to music, or YouTube's goal is to get people to watch videos, and the way to do that is to give them music or videos that they like.
The mechanisms that Spotify has there, and great, I'm not behind the scenes there or whatever, but like their thumb on the scale with that. I always use that term too, where it's like the amount that they have their thumb on the scale is like they can control playlisting, they can control like the monthly listener number by putting it into these places. Once it gets to the algorithm and once it's on the playlist, Spotify is the most aware and the algorithm is most aware of how much people like these songs. And if you see songs that are in like today's top hits that stick in there, it's because people really like those fucking songs.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
that is the thing to me where it's like we spend so much time thinking about all of this other stuff, and I'm like, if the songs are good enough, people are going to find it. People are going to tell the story about it in the same way that's my argument about athletes. It's like I don't know if any athlete has a great story versus somebody else who doesn't. It's just usually as good as you are, the story gets told more. And like that little
Some
motherfucker
people do have
Somber, I'm
more
like,
interesting
he
stories
has
than others.
well, they don't always end up being great players, right?
You
Like
will probably not stay in the. I mean, I don't know. Like
Shaquem Griffin doesn't have a job in the NFL because of the story. You have to have both.
well, Shador Sanders is an interesting one. Like, how long will he stay a major story if he's just like the 29th best quarterback in the NFL?
He won't. That's my point exactly. He wasn't drafted because of the story. He was drafted, and maybe he might have been drafted lower because of skill, but like
Then he should have based on skill. It'll be interesting to see. We don't have a lot of great examples of that historically, so I'll be curious.
I don't think there are that many teams who are signing vibes based players. And in the same way, there aren't hits that are just like there's almost always a reason. Whether we get it or not, there's almost always a reason. And a lot of the stuff where I'm like, this is bullshit and it's very popular, like I have to objectively be like, there is a thing that people are liking about this. And it's usually basically it's like these are catchy songs.
Well, the thing that people are liking right now is Geese and Cameron Winter. And you actually talked about this last year on the podcast, right? The return of Brooklyn Rock, right?
Did we talk about that last year? That was one
I'm
of the
pretty sure
stories
you
was,
did.
yeah. And this is like the culmination of it, right? I
I
don't
mean, I
even
don't know if it
I,
is the culmination of it. It's the product of it.
we I think we talked about the Dare quite a bit last year and like Dime Square, but it does feel like the period that we were talking about, right? Like the Strokes, White Stripes period, where New York really dominated culture, is happening again. And it's not just Cameron Winter and Geese, but this is also one where it's like Cameron Winter put out a record on a relatively small label, all things considered. It wasn't a major label release or anything like that. And the album, it came out, I think, in January.
No, December 6th, 2024. I already looked it
December
up
6th. Okay.
because I noticed it was in the Pitchfork Top 100 of 2025. And I was like, wait, I've seen that album release date. It was in 2024, but their rules allow it if it's after their previous year's release.
Where was that? Was it Love Takes Miles is in that list? Or a different song?
Let
And how
me
high was
go
it?
back. Oh, it was number one. Yeah, Love Takes Miles, yes.
No, that was this year though. Okay.
Oh, was it into that? No, yeah, I'm saying it was in
It
2025.
wasn't in the 2024 list.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yes. So this is a song, like it came out, I think the impact was mild, to be honest. And it was something that just like over time grew and grew and grew and grew, which like it came out in December and it is like that song in Love Takes Miles by Cameron Winter and the record in general is bigger today than it was in January 2025.
Yeah.
And just how huge of a year that he has had, and then the Geese record on top of it. And I do think the thing that's interesting about it is it's not influenced by those bands. It's not really influenced by Block Party. It's not influenced by the Strokes necessarily. It is more like a classic rock record overall than, the song like Taxes, where I'm like, I don't, you can hear that it's maybe New York music, but to me, it sounds very like 70s and very classic rock overall.
Yeah,
and having that modern take and kind of having it be like an indie hit in 2025. It's almost my point that I was saying, where I was like, the songs are going to find people. This wasn't like a ton of money being spent on, especially the first release. By the time of the Geese release, there was more money being spent. But like on the Cameron Winter album, it was a thing that they kind of just put out. And people found it and got really excited about it.
Yep.
Which is another thing that I've thought about, which is music press and how music press is, and again, music press is stories, right? There's no objectively good song or bad song. And I was thinking about this. I was literally on the subway in New York listening to Interpol. And I was like, this is Turn on the Bright Lights by Interpol is meant to be listened to in December in New York City, riding the subway, where it is cold as fuck upstairs. And I was like, it clicked for me where I was like, almost no band that isn't in New York or all of the UK, because all the UK is basically London, and it's such a small country that like
Wow. The UK listener is furious about this assertion.
I mean, it's a tiny country ultimately, but like
Geographically, it is quite small. Culturally, there are some pretty considerable differences.
Okay, I won't say the entire UK, but I do think that the entire UK has more in common with each other than maybe Seattle does with Florida.
That seems probable to me.
But I was like, basically all of the popular and important music press lives in London or New York and is looking for music that is meant to be played for their existence in London or New York. And that is why music press will always be dominated by those experiences, because when you're listening to it, if you're listening to sunny California pop and you're there on a cold New York day, it's not going to sound the same. But there's music that is made by artists from those places that is going to be so easily defined if you are literally experiencing it where it is meant to be experienced.
This is Cameron Crowe's music career, which I'm reading about currently in his autobiography, Erasure. He was
what is he saying?
He was in San Diego, so all the California pop, not that he was writing about pop necessarily, but that music was targeted for him. And Rolling Stone was headquartered in San Francisco at the time, so.
But it's all migrated to New York, you
Yes.
know, like the amount of music press, even Pitchfork, right? It was Chicago in the 90s, but like Chicago's not it's New York is the city for it. And that is a lot of times like it's partially what makes something like Cameron Winter and Geese happen. Where I saw a story where it's like, I think it was a New Yorker story where they're like, this could only happen in New York. And I'm like, first off, that's dumb. Second off, it's kind of true also.
It's self-fulfilling.
Yes. But I was like, these songs would have found people no matter what, because that's the point is good songs will find people. And every song basically has been in the algorithm, has had the opportunity to go and find people. And if it is good enough, it's going to.
All right. Well, one thing that didn't find at least us this summer, it's a different style of music because it has to be for being outside in the summertime, maybe going to Wild Waves in your classic American summer. But there was no true song of the summer, which is something that we love to discuss often on this podcast. No single song that seemed to be everywhere you listen to, particularly, in basketball arenas is often my experience of this. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm curious what you think about this also. Like we sort of talked about it at the time, but it is interesting that last summer was so defined by all of these songs, right? Like 2024 was such a great pop music summer for Chapel Roan, for Charlie XCX, for people like that. And even,
Sabrina Carpenter and Kendrick with They Not Like Us was also a song of the summer. It met that ubiquity. It was in every arena, which it was remarkable that all of these places, everywhere else, They Not Like Us.
It's so looking at like the Stereogum list, which I know I shouldn't take as gospel or whatever of song of the summer, but even like looking back, I don't know, they've had some misses for songs of the summer over the years. I'm going to read you the years. Okay. 2011, Pumped Up Kicks.
Okay.
Probably we feel good about that.
Yeah.
2012, Japandroids, The House That Heaven Built.
No.
Absolutely not. 2013, Get Lucky. Unimpeachable. Yes. 2014, Seasons Waiting on You by Future Islands.
A bit of a stretch.
I'm willing to give it a maybe. More than I was willing to give Japandroids. Like I
don't even know that song.
You don't? Oh well,
maybe I do, but I don't know that I know it. Which is
one of
probably enough as a song of the summer.
Japandroids at the Sunset after that album came out was like one of the most fun shows I've ever been to. But they were also playing the Sunset.
You know, it would be a fun. Yes, you know, it would be a fun ranking. Top 5 songs of the summer, like not the current summer, but all songs of the summer ranked.
I mean,
not only in terms of
how many times can you rank Feel Good Inc?
Not only in terms of their quality, but also just their timelessness and how positive the emotions are you associate with remembering that particular summer. Because there's one song in particular that is like so far number 1 for me.
What is it? The Train? Quad City DJs?
I mean, no, although great answer, but Crazy by Gnarls Barkley.
No, that was the summer. I'm telling you, Feel Good Inc. and Crazy by Gnarls Barkley invented the song of the summer. I do not believe it existed before then. Okay. Which also you'll note this list starts in 2011. 2015, I know there's going to be Good Times, Jamie XX, Young Thug, and Popcan. You're down with that? Okay, I feel like that's pretty good.
Again, specific memory of us being at Block Party in VIP and hearing the first strains of Jamie XX playing.
2016, No Problem, Chance the Rapper, Lil Wayne, 2 Chainz.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the song of the summer, to be totally
I'd have
honest.
to see other nominees.
2017, I think I'm good with Slide by Calvin Harris, Frank Ocean, Migos.
Sure.
Now, I don't know if it was exactly everywhere, but it was that was a pretty good one. I Like It, Cardi B, Bad Bunny, J Balvin.
Mm-hmm.
Popular song. Then we get to 2019. Really, no questions at all. Old Town Road.
Yes.
Yeah, undebatable.
Again, like that puts me in Heck Edmondson Arena at a Storm game because they were playing at Heck Ed that year and Old Town Road playing and everyone losing their minds about it.
2020 is a song called Rain on Me by Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande that I probably maybe have heard, but
Song of the Summer was canceled due to the pandemic.
Okay. Wait, actually I know what it is.
For 2020?
It was that Mood by, oh my God, by 24kGoldn and Ian Dior. That song to me was definitely song of the summer of 2020.
You can't be everywhere if people aren't going places. That's my position.
Fair enough. Japanese Breakfast in 2021, Be Sweet.
Yeah, that's probably still not that mainstream, but a good answer.
2022, Running Up the Hill. Kate Bush.
Yes,
literally, like, no question. Easily, the fact that a song like that could be just on the radio again. 2023, a Kylie Minogue song called Patum Patum.
No.
I have no idea on that one. Not Like
Obviously
Us 2024. Not. I'm going to give it a probably, but I do think some of the other pop competitors...
I mean, Espresso was pretty everywhere, but They Not Like Us was also everywhere. I think it could have been multiple songs of the summer, co-songs.
To me, like, Pink Pony Club has lasted long. Not Like Us is kind of gone. Pink Pony Club
I wouldn't go that far.
And I think Pink Pony Club has outlasted Espresso too.
Was Pink Pony Club in a movie recently that I saw? There was something from Chapel Roan in a movie lately, and I was like, wow, that is always going to take me back to a specific time in a specific place. I agree that Espresso has not had the shelf life.
But also,
Sabrina Carpenter's career has.
Here's the other thing about good songs. Find it. You know what year that song came out. Both of them. I mean, no, Pink Pony Club.
It came out in 23? Yeah,
April 3rd, 2020.
I'm sorry, what? I didn't know that. That is funny.
I mean, the record came out in 2023.
Although the question is then, what year did the Kate Bush song come out?
Well, yeah, I mean, that came out in like 1981 or something.
Yeah.
But like Running Up That Hill was a big song already.
Oh, yes, it was. But it got new life.
Okay. And then 2025 to me is emblematic of what we're talking about because none of the top 10, I'm like, no, nah, I don't think so. Elderberry Wine by Wednesday. I'm not saying it's not a good song. That's not the point here.
Definitely not.
If you were to ask Jan who Wednesday is, no fucking clue. The average person, like what you were talking about with how many people are like listening to TikTok, the average person does still, even though they're a popular indie band, does not know who Wednesday is.
I don't think I know that song.
It's a good song. And then like Alex G at number 2, absolutely not. The closest is Illegal by Pink Panthers because that was a big TikTok song. And then the Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters. That was kind of the actual song of the summer. And then like a Pulp song, like Never Enough by Turnstile, not really. The Taxes by Geese, Headphones On by Addison Rae, Relationships by Haim, and Ryan Davis and the Roadhouse Band. Just like, no, absolutely not. These are not the song of summer.
Agreed.
So it was a little bit of a strange summer, but it's more interesting that there wasn't anything. I think the 2024 list was much stronger. And the thing that actually is going to last from there is K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yes.
More than anything else. And that is the power of having a really freaking good sync. And ultimately, that's one of the things where I'm like, it could be a little bit of age. What I'm saying to you is like, it's not that things have changed. It's just that you've gotten old. K-pop Demon Hunter skews much younger. than a lot of the songs that I'm talking about in that case. This is not even teen music. This is like preteen music to like kids. But there still was a song in the summer and really like a whole soundtrack of the summer for young people. It's just that it didn't permeate, like adults were not listening to it in the same way.
Yes, although again, I think like kids were certainly more into Old Town Road, for example, but that was still everywhere. It is a definitional feature of being a song of the summer. All right. Anything else on broad trends in music in 2025?
No, let's talk about songs.
Let's get to the top 10. I'll go first. I did not have any honorable mentions this year. So we'll get right into my top 10, starting with No Front Teeth from Perfume Genius featuring Aldous Harding. Obviously, Perfume Genius pretty prominent as far as indie rock musicians go. Aldous Harding, I didn't know at all. A
Love Aldous
Kiwi
Harding.
singer who really added something to that track.
This was like 2017 or something. I like found her first record, and it was one of the artists where you like find. This was when I was working in booking, and you see it, and she already had a booking agent, and I was just like, fuck.
Yeah. That's the experience you do have working in music. All right, number 9. Our old friends Whitney with the song Damage. Their new album Small Talk was out recently with, the classic vocals that you come to expect from Whitney.
You should cue up the Pitchfork review of that one.
It was not good.
It was pretty fun to read. I mean, I sometimes feel bad for artists, but it was the one thing that that Pitchfork has done this year that I am actually kind of like a little scared of, but also I think is fun, is being willing to be critical to have actual. I heard there was
like
a
opinions.
Van Lathan who was talking about this one time, where he was talking about like somebody, I can't remember who it was, but big music editor, like from like 80s 90s, like queued up like modern pop music at some point in the early 2000s, just like all this sucks. and it mostly goes to my point of you just got old, right. Like this music isn't for you, old man. But it is kind of fun when people are, it's not just about like,
it's not sanitized.
Yeah, there's actual like a critical understanding of the music.
All right, number 8, Neighborhood Watch from Oblé Reed featuring one of our friends, one of your friends, and Krush. What did you think about this year for Oblé Reed, Seattle rapper?
I mean, I had heard about, it was Aramis who talked to me about him beforehand. He was like, you need to watch out for this dude Oblé. He's going to be huge. It does seem like Seattle's a hard place to get out of, but yeah, I think building something pretty cool right now.
Yeah, he had the album Line Leaders this year. I went with this over Sundiver from that album, but had those two in my, vying for a spot in my top 10 basically all year when this list was like 4 songs long. All right, number 7 from Rosalia.
Who is my friend, by the way? I don't know who Krush is. I think you're thinking of somebody else. I think you're thinking of somebody else.
That's what it says on the song.
No. You were like your friend, Krush.
No. The other person is named one of your friends.
Got it.
Not literally.
I take that back. I was like, I don't know.
Not everything is about you, sir. I know the Tiny Desk concert story was, but you were not at the center of everything. All right, number 7 from Rosalia, Reliquia. A very different pop album from Rosalia this year, but I personally am a sucker for orchestral, like modern addition to modern songs. And this one specifically, some of the beats on there kind of felt Odessa-esque to me. So, I had not really, if I'm being honest, gotten into Rosalia previously, but Lux got to me much more.
You were like the Phil Spector version of Let It Be, no notes. 10 out of 10.
I think it gets a bad rap sometimes. Phil Spector gets an appropriate rap, certainly. All right. Was listening to the Darlene Love Christmas album and thinking of musing on that last week. All right, number 6, Over Greater Than Forever by Madison McFerrin. This one, the song has a very Kaytranada feel to me, and his album was one of my, I think this was around 2014, was one of my top albums of the year, so very into that. All right, number 5, we get fully into we sort of maybe were here before with the Whitney song, Whitney album apparently, but
Wait, I want
number
to come back to the Darling Love Christmas album, like a specific Christmas album of Darling Love's, or a Christmas gift for you from Phil Spector, which is the second greatest Christmas album of all time.
I believe that, yes.
Okay.
Number 5.
After Vince Guaraldi, number 2, Phil Spector.
All right, I'll allow it. I always whenever people are playing Vince Guaraldi songs, I just can't help but think of your bit.
The like heroin infused Vince Guaraldi jazz musician. No, it's the best.
I hate that it's so good. All right, number 5. Again, we get into one of my favorite genres, which is band that you didn't realize is still making new music.
Wow.
Makes songs that are reminiscent of their classic period. No, I will say this, Cold War Kids has been prolific for a long period of time and still, I think, quite successful in terms of touring and things like that. But I let me double check. Is it Meditations or Mediations? I assume it's Meditations, but yeah, Meditations by Cold War Kids off of their album, which is called.
It looks like it's To Come. This is like a single.
Oh yeah, it's not yet out. Yes,
from Hyper Empathy.
Correct.
Single. Yeah.
Yeah, the album itself is not out yet, but really enjoyed the bass line on this one. So, and number 4, maybe the ultimate version of this. Somebody who's have not listened to music new from them in a long period of time. Wilco.
Oh wow! Hello.
With the song "Dawned on Me," which really stuck with me, very reminiscent to me of classic Wilco. All right, in the third spot, Geese with Cobra.
Wow.
Went from not having listened to them last month when you first asked me, do you know Geese? To into my top 3. So thanks to you, sir, for this one.
I mean, I don't know if I could take any personal credit for that, for you listening to one of the most popular rock bands. You were bound to find it either way.
They did come up on that aforementioned Bill Simmons, Chuck Klosterman podcast after we talked.
That's how I knew the band was washed.
All right, number 2, Nice to Each Other from Ella Dean, who had a bit of a big year, appeared on SNL. I haven't necessarily gotten super into her other stuff, but this one was right there neck and neck for number 1 for me all year long.
I have literally never heard a single one of the songs that you have in your top 10.
Really? Not one.
Not a single one.
Love it. My number 1 song of 2000.
You're talking about Olivia Dean, though, right? Not Ella Dean. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that is what I said. Yes, I am talking about Olivia Dean. Ella Dean is Ella Dean, who plays for the Huskies. Number 1 is my number 1 song of 2025, The Rope from Wonder Horse. The second consecutive year with a Wonder Horse song in my top 10. And I think this is actually even more classic rock than Geese in some ways, I would say. Or throwing it back. Love the cowbell on this track. Couldn't get enough of listening to this in the last few weeks here as I was finalizing my top 10. So that made it my number 1 song of 2025.
Huge. Their only single of the year also for Wonder Horse.
Yeah. 1 for 1.
All right. I have to go listen to that song.
Yeah. All right. Now your top 10 up and coming. Is this songs or artists?
Songs.
Okay.
Have I done artists before?
I think you've done songs. Sometimes you name multiple songs by a particular artist.
Okay, I did two as a number 10 of cheat ones for artists who are already big. The song Elderberry Wine by Wednesday.
Oh, there you go.
It was one of those ones where it came out and I was just like, all right, you got one. I'm like, you got me here. That's pretty good. Of artists who are like, I just don't listen to that much of artists who are established necessarily, but I was like, damn, okay. Tied with Fame as a Gun by Addison Rae. And the Addison Rae, like the summer that she had, basically kind of like continuing for her, like Brat summer. But of the pop music that was coming out in 2025 that kind of felt like a continuation of 2024, Addison Rae friggin' ruled. Okay. Have you listened to that record?
I have not. I noticed in the Pitchfork Top 100.
At number 9, I have from Spanaway, Washington, a band called Kazi, C-A-S-I. I chose the song Woke Up in a Bag. I would say I expect much bigger things from this band for next year. And I basically was kind of arbitrarily picking one of these songs because I do think going to release is phenomenal. This is Eli, bassist of Enumclaw in Kazi. And like I'm going to a live show on Friday. But live shows are supposed to be incredible. tons of energy. It's like Tizo Touchdown and Playboy Cardi meets Limp Bizkit and Korn and Turn. It's like hardcore and hip hop all in one. This is Kazi's the wave. Kazi is what's happening.
That doesn't sound like a gathering I would necessarily like to be a part of.
The
But
last show they had like painted themselves with ICP makeup for it. It's two dudes from Spanaway. I'm just like,
I'm very excited to listen to this. I meant actually putting Korn and all of those in the same room, hanging out.
all the same influences. At number 8, a band called Flycatcher and a song called Flood. One that kind of surprised me, where I was listening to Will Yip produce their album, put it out on his label, and who's like up for producer of the year, worked on the Turnstile record. This one was like really, I think you should actually listen to this. Reminded me a lot. I mean, I think you should listen to all these, but so much of like 90s alt rock. And
Okay.
it's just like a genre that I don't think too many artists are influenced by today. And it was like, I couldn't quite pin down the exact artist that it was, but I was like, this would have made sense. Like, I wouldn't have been shocked for it to have been on Friends
Right.
or something like that. I was pretty surprised how much I like this one. Let me see here. At what am I on? I didn't number these. Wait. At number
I believe you're at
7,
number 7, yes.
I have the song I Need Something More Than This by a band called House of Protection. So there's 2 former members of a band called Fever 333 making music that is
Oh, of
influenced by like, it's a pretty popular band, influenced by like Linkin Park and hardcore music. Definitely a lot of the stuff that was happening this year is in that territory of like, this is heavy music, but also sort of like the drums of hip hop at the same time, and vocals in that same range, like same as like Linkin Park. It's a thing that I think is going to come back pretty massively. Is I wouldn't be shocked if there was like a pretty huge rap rock revival that happened, because it's been I don't know, like generations basically since there's been a big new rap rock artist.
I mean, we saw the sort of punk revival a few years ago, and I feel like it's in that same time frame where it should be cool again. Yes.
This also might be the way that hip hop comes back too. You know, like, I'm not saying that Limp Bizkit was hip hop necessarily, but hip hop that is influenced by both of these genres. I was talking to an attorney today. He was like, people can't get enough of heavy music. He was like, metal is it right now. And some of it just like as heavy as possible. Because I think some of the really popular metal right now is like, oops, I forgot to be heavy. But like, also on like a smaller level, the really, really popular music is like very, very heavy at the moment. At number 6, I have a song called Sid Sweeney by a band called Smut from Chicago. This is a coworker works with this band. That is a caveat. I don't work with any of these artists. Coworker works with them. Sid Sweeney did really, really well. And a song that like you get to the chorus and you're like, oh hell yes, I'm in. I love the name of it, Sid Sweeney, and sort of like dark pop stuff. Very excited about that one. At number 5, a song called Logging Field by Annabelle Dinda, and part of kind of like the TikTok folk rock revival. There's an artist named Hudson Freeman who kind of blew up this year because of a TikTok. It's a very natural place to play that type of music. Annabelle Dinda, I thought, was even more exciting, like Joni Mitchell level. The stuff that she's doing kind of early on. I heard this one and I was like, oh, I'm deeply in. At number 4, from kind of the DIY underground, a song called Even If It's Just a Dream by Sword 2. Sword 2 had a pretty good year. In sort of like, you know, also in like post TikTok era, there's a lot of like shoegaze that is very, very popular. Sword 2 is kind of like a very polished continuation of that.
Okay.
At number 3, a band out of LA and then also New York called Mat Keeper, and a song called Pieces of Yours. They have 2 songs out right now. Kind of like, I guess, like New York vibey music. Chanel Beads, artist in that territory. This was one where I heard it for the first time and I was like, oh, this sounds like something that I haven't heard in a long time. Porches is a big influence. Blood Orange is a big influence. You know, artists maybe like a decade ago who were really, really big doing that like combination of pop and electronic and then sort of like the warm guitars with it. Number 2, one that completely surprised me, and I think I ended up having a pretty good year, out of Olympia, Washington, a song called Bronco by Pigeon Pit. and just like a little bit of Mountain Goats, just like early Mountain Goats throwing shit out there, a little bit of like Meat Puppets and like folk rock, country rock, Defiance, Ohio, people like that. And I heard the song and I swear to God, I listened to it. I don't know if it was, I think it was in my top 5 songs of the year. Because in one day I listened to it like 65 times in a row. One of those moments where you hear a song and you're like, I have to listen to this over and over and over again.
What was that song again?
It's called Bronco by Pigeon Pit.
Okay, I found Pigeon Pit, but I did not find Bronco.
Also the type of band that like I would have booked the hell out of at the Vera Project.
Yeah.
It is
Okay.
very like,
Here we
you
go.
found it?
Yeah.
Crusty Vera Project music. And at number 1, one that also surprised me. I heard about this from Normal, Illinois. This was another one that an attorney sent to me, and he was like, you got to check this band out. And I listened to them. I shared it with my boss. It was his number 1 band of the year.
Wow.
And I shared it with him in like September. Every time I'm like doing a call, he's like, are you talking to Harrison Gordon? Is who the band is. And the song is called Driver's Side. Just like the catchiest, most fun music. Harrison Gordon's like beer drinking, like playing video games, sitting on his couch, watching TV, talking shit type of dude. And I think all of the Harrison Gordon stuff is excellent across the board, but like Midwest slacker, like pop punk rock, Pup is like one of the big influences. I am freaking obsessed with this band.
Why hasn't this appeared on the Bear soundtrack yet? That you basically described a song on the Bear soundtrack to me.
I think it's like a little bit more fun than the Bear.
Some of the Bear songs are fun. I would say that.
The press photo, it's like a basement show and then in front of a Little Caesars pizza truck. It's like, give me that all day. But Driver's Side, I think, was their only single that came out this year. Right, they had a whole EP this year. But Driver's Side, like, definitely the best song.
I love
on there.
the last album title from them. The Yuppies Are Winning.
The Yuppies are winning. It might feel that way if you live in Normal, Illinois, too.
I'm sure.
Anyway, Harrison Gordon freaking rules. Just like literally a band where I'm like, I will just be a fan of this band no matter what. I don't care. And there are not that many things that I listen to where I'm like, I just love this shit.
Even if you can't sign him.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I'm excited to check that out. Certainly. You didn't have Cameron Winter in your top 10 last year, did you?
No, I didn't know anything about Cameron. I'm not trying to be hipster about it. I mean, I knew who Geese
Wow.
were, but like, I hadn't listened to that album until January. I literally did not know who he was. I thought he was just a guy named Cameron Winter. I mean, it literally just is a guy named Cameron Winter. I didn't know.
By definition, we all are just a person called who.
I didn't know that he was the singer of a band that I was not
Right.
so familiar with. I heard it on, I think, Fresh Finds. And it really was, I was like, I texted Aramis about it because you go to Aramis when you have any sort of like, you need a perspective on music, right?
Yeah.
And even like the Kazi band, Aramis was like, they've got something here. And I was like, if Aramis is willing to say that something is good, it's really good.
Wait, is the bassist also his brother?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Imagine me saying that you did something.
Oh, that's a good point.
Do you
Wow.
know what the threshold has to be? Do you know how good those grades would have had to be traded?
Did you say that about my Luka Doncic trade grades?
I would have been like, you know what? KP's finally got one here. Oh, it is also similar to the many of the bands, like the Matt Keeper band, two brothers, different last names. And I was like, how could that ever be?
Well, if they named the band one of their last names and not the other, it might raise some questions.
I only get one podcast all year. Don't take this from me.
Murder's Hot Take season preview is all you too. No, this is always one of my favorite podcasts to do each year.
I love finding out that Cold War Kids put out a record.
That's part of what I enjoy. When your discovery of like, oh, they're still making music, huh? Good for them.
To find that out. I didn't know there was a new Wilco record. But no, it's been a
shouts to Release Radar for serving these things to me.
it's been the algorithm always knows. I mean, that's a little bit more curated, but
Yes.
But do you ever listen to just radio or like play a song and listen to autoplay after that?
No, under no circumstances.
Really?
Yeah, which is probably not good for my music discovery.
The robots are good. The robots are good at this.
All right, well, maybe I'll try it at some point. I mean, I guess I've done that with like older songs sometimes. I believe there's a "What's Up" music living somewhere on my playlist.
A What's Up music?
Is that what it was? Yeah, the Four Non Blondes.
Oh, well, that was the other thought that I had, where I was like,
yeah, What's Up Radio is sitting here in my playlist.
It is always the internet is undefeated when it comes to music discovery, and having like two of the most viral songs be mashup, I guess is what you'd call it. Four Non Blondes and a Nicki Minaj. Are you aware of this?
No.
That song's huge again.
Okay, let's go.
And then currently is Piano Man by Billy Joel into Silver Spring by Fleetwood Mac.
I'll have to check that out.
So that viral sound, there's not I don't think you will have to check that out.
You can't just play it as like the songs mashed up.
I don't know. I'm sure that there is somewhere a Silver Springs Piano Man combo.
I don't know if I know Silver Springs off the top of my head.
Oh,
I mean, I'm sure I do know it, but I don't know I know it.
Yeah, no, you.
But I know the No Piano Man and could probably sing at karaoke without the lyrics. On that note,
and probably will be for life.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.